we'll start off with a quick introduction by Wissam of JCP. I'll talk a little bit about the access finance function within JCP, and then Rami Al-Karmi, who's working with us on that angel investing ecosystem, where he's going to present what we've been doing in the last couple of months and the recommendations. After that, we'll open it to discussions and to get your feedback on what we're planning to do from now on. Wissam, you want to take it from here?
Thanks, Rami. Thanks, Allah. And Rami.
You're welcome.
Thanks, well, welcome everybody, and thank you really for coming at the end of day 2 of what has been a really very busy and exciting 2 days. Just quickly, for those who might not be as familiar with the USAID Jordan Competitiveness Program, the program is really looking at how can we increase the competitiveness of the Jordanian firms, basically. And we're focusing on 3 major sectors where we think Jordan has a relative competitive advantage. One, of course, ICT, and that's why we're happy to be the main sponsor for this MENA ICT forum this year. The second one is healthcare and life sciences. That include pharmaceuticals, medical tourism, IT and healthcare. And the third one, of course, energy, and especially clean energy and energy efficiency. Within these 3 sectors, we're really working at different stages, I guess. And even these 3 sectors, by the way, they tend to be at different stages of their life. So if you look at renewable energy today in Jordan, it's in infancy. It's a new sector. A lot of things need to happen there. While ICT is sort of a growth stage, but the medical services and pharmaceutical is a 50-year industry in Jordan, is very well structured. But really, if we are measured on job creation, increasing export, and bringing FDI to Jordan, and we really look at job creation and see where the jobs are going to come from. And most likely jobs will come from new companies, startups, SMEs. Those are the ones who typically generate most of these jobs. But access to finance at this stage remains an issue in Jordan. I know there is Oasis 500 been doing a great job, and many angels. I know many angels here that they're doing angel investment, but it's not very structured. It's individual. We don't really know exactly what is going on. But to have this seed funding, and I understand it's very risky to go in early stage and seed stage and angel stage. So our challenge at JCP was, and by the way, we did with a lot of the stakeholders. We did a meeting a few months ago, and we asked everybody, what is the most important thing in the ecosystem which JCP needs to work on? And angel investment came as the #1 issue that players in the ecosystem, whether accelerators and supporting organizations, felt that angel investors and investment need to be in the top of issues that JCP need to work on. So we went back and we got Rami with us as well, and we talked to many of you to see, so what is the intervention? What can JCP do in the next 3 years to really improve this space, increase the access to finance for startups, increase the amount of deals and the total amount that is invested in a startup from both supply and demand? Is it the deal flow, the quality of the deal flow? Is it the knowledge of the angel investors? What is it, and where is our intervention? And that's the key question is what can we do to help? And without further delay, I would, I guess, Rami.
No, it's fine. The only thing is we're going to start off, so we'll go through the presentation, short-term initiatives, long-term, and then after that we'll open it for discussion. So we want to make it as short as possible from the presentation so that we get your feedback and input.
It's not the topic issue on access to finance.
I mean, I think Wissam covered it. So on the access to finance for JCP, we started off last year more on the diagnostic stage. We wanted to identify the sources of financing in the economy. Obviously, we work on the different spectrums from an early stage, SME, and larger. And we have 3 sectors that we're looking at. Each sector has, its own dynamics. So obviously, there's, each one has its own things that we have to deal with. The key thing is, the two funding gaps that we always see and we know of on the SME side and early stage financing. SME, you have the smaller companies or medium size that have problems getting, whether it's bank financing or investments, and for a variety of reasons, whether they don't have the necessary plans, they can't get the credit, etc. Collateral issues, etc. On the investment side, we don't have enough growth capital funds. Basically, the funds are more interested in the larger size. On the early stage funding, which is more on our topic today, obviously, Jordan has been ahead from an ICT perspective. However, in other sectors, we haven't done a lot either. But even today, there are supply and demand issues. And this seed funding or angel funding is very critical because a lot of this is where you get companies going. This is where they start hiring to grow into those SMEs. So today, Rami will walk you through this analysis that we went through, what we came up with, recommendations, as I said, short-term and long-term, and then see how we want JCP to move forward in the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Before I start, I just demystifying the angel. Most of us are angels, and I have the pleasure of working with the JCP team on this advisory assignment.
Thank you for the compliment. I mean angel investors, not angels.
I'm coming.
Most of us are not angels.
This is exactly where I'm getting. I remember when I started working with Emil on a developmental program earlier, I spent quite some time in the development side, and then attending the global entrepreneurship program. This is where I decided to basically quit, go back to school, go back to study venture capital, and move into this space. And I used to say I moved to the darker side. so there's no angel investing to a certain extent. And again, when Wissam and Omar and Patrick called me in, one of the first discussions we had is, do we really need angel investing, or do we really need to look into the angel space as well? And I didn't use this exact answer, but I sometimes use it. Basically, if you watched Wall Street, Money Never Dies, then Jordan Gekos has this scene where he talks to students in an auditorium. And he basically tells them, you are the ninja generation. No income, no jobs, no assets. So this has been always the guideline that basically that I basically use every time I have this discussion. Do we need entrepreneurship? Do we need to look outside of the box? I've done assignments across the Gulf. I've done assignments in different locations. We have different cultures and mindsets towards entrepreneurship. So one of the major challenges in some of the GCC countries is there is more job security. The government is providing jobs there. So I basically, how do I spur or ignite entrepreneurship? And then again, he keeps saying greed is still good. So we're not getting away, we're not stepping away from that. So looking into the startup investor ecosystem, and this is where we started our analysis basically. There's clearly, when we look into this part of the world, we don't have this clear segregation of where do I stand? Am I an early VC, late VC? But looking at the full spectrum, there's the angel incubator space, which basically is incubation/seed transactions. The funds are usually between 0 to 10 million. Then we go up to micro VCs, 10 to 100. Then there's the big and the mega. But looking into our basically, if I'm a startup and I want to raise funds, I have more opportunity, more options than simply going in and requesting investment money. So I can start with bootstrapping, Kickstarter model. We have representatives here from different crowdfunding platforms, and I'm happy we had this panel yesterday. So hopefully we'll bring in some of the discussions back into this room now and see how it feeds. Then there's crowdfunding, there's angel investors, there's accelerators, and interestingly enough, we don't have that much angel groups. where we can look into more value. Now, looking at the Jordanian context, most of the transactions beyond seed stage, the seed series A stage, we do have a serious gap in the funding. There are a few players, but we know that there isn't enough that they can do, depending on the space. And there's always this issue when we reach to a certain stage of growth, how do we unlock the next level? Where do we get capital to launch the next phase? And zooming up, looking at the entrepreneurial ecosystem at large, there's the different components that feed it. The three major players are the entrepreneurs themselves, corporations where we have potential acquirers and strategic investors, and the investors ecosystem itself. Now, the demand side is the entrepreneurial side, and this is something we're looking into through this engagement. The investor side, where the supply side is, and again, corporations, and we're seeing more and more appetite towards corporations being engaged now, wearing another hat, working with Zain, for example. We've spent some time now looking into how can Zain be involved in the ecosystem and what have you. But at the basic level, Hikma might be one of the few examples that basically goes in as a corporate and supports the ecosystem through acquisition and what have you. But we hardly hear of stories where a corporation came in and acquired for talent acquisition or did a strategic investment in this part of the world. While on the flip side, when you look in exactly, we have limited stories. But when you look at the flip side, when you go to San Francisco, to Silicon Valley, for example, on average, I'm generalizing here, but on average, there's 5 out of 10 companies going through the demo day that get acquired during the demo day for many reasons, be it the talent acquisition or even shutting it down, trying to get to close down the IP at that level. But we don't have that. Also, there's the enabling environment. It's out of the scope of this discussion because JCP is handling that in different components.
Rami?
Uh-huh.
Sorry, can we just go back to that slide with the numbers? Because I think if we're going to have this discussion, we want to get sort of the data correct. But can you just explain what this means? Angels incubator 0 to 10 million. This is how much each company is raising?
No, that's the fund. Usually, the fund size of an investor within the investor ecosystem. So you would see. So a micro VC fund is a fund that has 10 to 100 million as a fund size. And
this is for the region or for the U.S.?
That's the U.S. The Jordanian context is
this
much
is
different.
Like very different in the region.
Yeah. Okay. That's the global setting. In this part of the world, not only Jordan, you would see different players moving out of the designed boxes you see here because there are gaps. So in terms of opportunities, you would see different players within the early VC acting at the seed stage and what have you. Did I cover the question?
Yeah.
So looking at the demand side and the demand and supply side, and what constraints do we have at that front? So supply side, basically, we don't have enough active angel investors. Now, looking at the amounts of deposits that the central bank basically reports on, we don't have a wealth issue in the country, but active angel investors, we don't have enough. We might have, but there isn't enough on the radar. We don't know what type of activity is there. There are gaps in preset expectations on valuation and knowledge in investment terms. We've heard a lot about this mismatch when angel investors go into discussions with startups. They feel the valuation is $1 zillion, while it's the other way around. And even knowledge with the investment terms and how would you put in the agreement terms across the investment. Sometimes there are a few gaps there in that space. There's a limited network effect. There's no environment that would help me pool in investments. So I can't go if I call in my friends and we do this co-investment round. This is because I know them, but there's no one-stop shop or a place that I can go to and ask people to support me, be it because they add certain networking element, or they have a certain skill set, or they can unlock certain synergies that can help this startup. There's also expensive legal costs compared to the transaction size sometimes. I've done some deals with some friends, and they were surprised by the amount of costs. I have an optimized cost when I basically, most of us in the room actually do that, but I've run across groups where, for example, they would invest $10,000 in a startup, while the legal cost to set that up is around $25,000. And in most of the cases, this is either a lost opportunity that this cash can go to support the company, or they would both decide not to go ahead with it because of the high costs. Basically, part of what we did while looking into this space brought out this huge red flag. There's no data, so we basically don't know what's the performance of most of the investments that happened, what failed, what worked, and there are different values that we can get out of that. So maybe I would like to align myself with and co-invest with a certain investor who has good traction, who does more follow-on. Many different reasons. There's no one reference point or a data framework that allows us to understand what type of performance is taking place with different investments. Looking at the demand side, there are, for many different reasons, there's exaggerated valuation versus value created. Again, this is a bit of a generalization, but that's a huge issue that I heard from most of you who I basically managed to interview during this exercise. And sometimes it's based on trying to put in comparables with a similar business model in the US while not having the similar traction on the ground. So I would compare myself with something that I might be in like, if I do work, but they try to base the valuation without actually doing this value. There's some miscommunication in most of the times in terms of investment readiness and corporate maturity. So we see this lovely presentation when we jump into due diligence. There are corporate maturity issues, or where there's some miscommunication. The presentation said something while on the ground you see something different in terms of investment readiness. There's some tendency to the focus on limited markets, forgetting the distribution side in the business model and trying to penetrate more lucrative markets externally and what have you. And the most importantly, basically, is failing to discover a repeatable and scalable model before you basically, before your runway is over. Now, to put the positive side on it, why would we invest in Jordan? And I wanted to go into so much details, but I then remembered who the audience is for this session. And you guys would tell me even more, why would we invest in Jordan? There's all those beautiful success stories. We still have a Jordanian company, which is Aramex, that is still holding this only company that basically went public on NASDAQ. We've seen even in healthcare where Dr. Kilani, for example, is doing lots of amazing stuff in his hospital in terms of fertility and what have you. There's lots of innovations that are available. We have a huge population that went into engineering and what have you. But put all that aside, just take the Thursday flight back from Riyadh to Amman and see how many decision makers we have all across the region, just out of Jordan. So that puts in two question marks. Basically, the potential is there, but how much are we doing to help stop the brain drain, or create or support and nurture ideas that can be nurtured within Jordan with global potential or regional potential, but keeping the base inside Jordan, helping create jobs and basically how much we're operating as a hub within the MENA region. Why be angel investors? Why would we basically be interested in that? And I was asked this question by the team within JCP, why would we, as your kind selves as audience or anyone else who might be interested in stepping in as angel, why would we be interested in that? And I found answering that should basically cover what I heard from you during the discussions we had. And I would like to borrow the latest book by, the title of the latest book by Richard Branson, Screw Business as Usual. But the main reason is, some people would be interested in angel investing is looking into different sectors and industries. So I'm part of a certain sector and I'm interested in ICT, for example. I see all this money being created in terms of gains in a certain sector, and I want some insights on that space. I want to leverage a skill set or certain connections that I have external to my day-to-day businesses and what I'm doing. I'm part of the diaspora, and I want to give back, I want to create jobs, I want to support the people, yet make money while doing that. But again, the main title within the slogan within the book says, how to have fun, do good, and make money. And I think that's the core of why would I be an angel investor. Now, the strategy, there are lots of ways to go about help ignite an ecosystem that angel investing basically is the core supporter of. But the strategy that the team basically looked into is a strategy that starts with validation and vetting. So we've had networks in the region. People have started certain angel activities. Some were happy, some didn't feel very comfortable. So we wanted to start with a certain validation phase that would help get the trust and traction back into this space. Then look at it as a community where we need to build this angel community, grow it, and what have you. So we will start with quick wins, then move to activities that would help build up. Then a new angel network will be created. And this new angel network will take the ownership moving forward on helping this community grow. Now, to drill down into details, and as quick wins, we were basically lucky to have you guys here, the crowdfunding crowd. So we looked into, I'm putting you on the spot now. So we looked into one example, which is Eureka, where 7 Jordanian startups last year raised nearly $800,000. And I've interacted with some people who never thought of investing, didn't understand how to do it, yet saw Siemens pitch or saw someone else's pitch from Joe Badu or what have you, and put in $500 just to see, even without understanding what the terms are, or it intrigued them. So they want to see what's going on, and I want to kick it off and see what's going on. So crowdfunding to us, and we have Chris, Ronald, and Ahmed from Liwa, and Abdullah Absi from Zumal, where this is a parallel track that we see when we look at alternative funding and supporting. And a quick win would be leveraging and supporting crowdfunding into this space. Let me just go through the plan as the Access to Finance team basically is interested in applying. And there are 2 years where the main focus of activity is, year 2 and year 3. The quick wins basically starts right away with the crowdfunding support, and we can go into details on what can happen. But basically,
sorry, Rami, year 2 is actually this year.
the year 2 of JCP. So JCP's direct intervention here is supporting more companies, more Jordanian companies, going on to different crowdfunding platforms. And how would we basically help that happen? A startup readiness, investment readiness program, which following on the Steve Blank model, would have, you see, most of the companies we go through have more technical insights than the business side, and for many different reasons. So such a program would help not only support and cover up the business side that is needed, but most importantly, it would provide one language that when you communicate, for example, I'm at level 3, this means there's a problem solution validation that took place. And this is a new topic that Steve Blank, the leading author, entrepreneur, thought leader in entrepreneurship, basically is rolling out. So we're hoping Jordan can be even a case study on pioneering on that front. Level 2 is we want to start a community. So before we kick it off, we want to bring in, an existing angel, number of existing angel workshops. So yourselves or people you know who are currently angel investing, but feel there are something that can be covered, half-a-day workshops, so it doesn't take much time, due diligence, term sheets, certain topics that are out there. So a series of workshops will take place for current and existing angel investors who can join. But most importantly, we're always interested for this crowd to take, for this community to build, to take place and get built, is basically bringing the non-usual suspects. So we have people who are currently angel investing, but there are lots of people who are interested in being angel investors but don't have a clue what to do. So there's a number of models here, but what we're planning to have is a 6 months workshop that I sign up with. I commit $5,000 and I go through the 6 months program. First 3 months is capacity building on what to do, what are the term sheets, the legalities, how do you select ideas and what have you. The second 3 months is a program where hopefully the outputs of the startup investment programs are then ready, and we work together as a group, so we're forming a fellowship to together screen and identify which is the best opportunity to invest in. So imagine 20 to 25 wannabe angels, new angels, going through this program, committing $5,000, which isn't much to them, but collectively creating an interesting transaction, a pool of $100,000 or $120,000 that would go as a pool into one startup towards the end. Now, this does not limit you as a new angel to go in and do other transactions or invest later on, but this is a learning experience that you go through for 6 months. Every month you only step in for 2 days in a retreat type of mode, and you get the learning experience. Now, having that in mind, we have a few angel investors that went through, existing angel investors that went through workshops, and we have a few new wannabe angel investors that went through the training. Now this fellowship needs an umbrella, and this is where a new angel network steps in with the current attendees of those programs as your alpha group, the main group that is basically starting this angel network. This angel network will basically have attention to growth, where we basically identified that this is the main segment requiring support. It has a club-based model, so it basically can operate with different geographies, different industries, so the group members connect per group. That's basically the club model. But also, someone like Oasis can step in and say, I want to create a sub-category within the group per creative industry, per ICT, per what have you. So it will have this umbrella effect to support each other. Most importantly, it will have a lean operation, so not necessarily a high working capital and what have you initially because of the membership model. Some of the details would be, for example, the revenue streams are member dues, prepaid dinners, and investment pledges. So I would basically commit $50,000 to join as a member, and this commitment should go towards investments that I do as part of the network. It should be fun and engaging, yet exclusive and elite. So some of the things that we're looking at is, for example, we don't have angel accreditation in Jordan, but something like I would provide a bank slip or I would, something like that, something that would show this exclusivity element while joining the network. So moving forward, we have a network up and running. Most of the activities that will take place are activities that are owned by the network. The year 2 activities are JCP driven, but then most of the activities will be sustained and the ownership will be transferred to this network. The first component is an angel investing legal toolkit. We've all seen most of the accelerators worldwide basically open sourcing, creating this legal toolkit where the deck of agreements are ready. All you need to do is change the terms and what have you. But we all know how hectic it is to create a Jordanian version that works every time we do a transaction. So this would be one component that will be developed by the network through the JCP support. An angel investing business support unit. Most of the people yourself, so I talked with during the engagement, have basically created somehow an internal function, either by having an accountant or someone who would handle legal or someone who would handle business development for their portfolio to support them and what have you. But this only works when I have enough portfolio in place for it to have proper return. So creating a support unit with a model that would contribute to the sustainability of the network would be one of the plans. Launching a Jordan investment performance data unit as part of the network. And every time I talk to startups, I start by mentioning what type of failures are the top reasons for failures. And the first thing I always hear back from them is, this is the US, we're different. This is global, we're different. So you tell them if there's no market need, there's no customers, but we're different. So what we want to start with as a baseline for this data unit is conducting a study across a certain number of years, maybe 5 years back, with all the startups that we know that went through different cycles, and identify what were, especially the ones who failed, and identify what were those top 20 reasons of failure with the Jordanian context. I'm sure we will get the same exact top 20 reasons worldwide, but then we have this solid evidence of them hopefully trying not to go through this again. And as a byproduct, we have our baseline then for our data unit to start and moving forward and recording on transactions. Again, this unit will be there, so any member as part of the network would automatically record their transactions and what have you, and then this data network will go on. Most importantly, launching a sidecar fund within the network, and this can serve multiple interesting points. So, for example, we should start with diaspora. This vehicle or this facility would help people in the diaspora basically invest on the same terms that the network group basically decides on, while being silent investors, without having to go through the screening, the due diligence, and what have you, and they get the same terms. This vehicle can operate as multiple vehicles that are under one umbrella. So in terms of technology transfer, for example, I can point certain IP out there, and someone can request to unlock certain funds from within the pool if they can fulfill this IP technology transfer piece. Having discussions with Emil earlier on, MENA 2 also has a component, if inshallah that flies in, where as a group I can unlock a one-to-one matching investment, or individually 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 matching investment per deal. Again, we asked the question, why Jordan? And this question needs to be answered at the global scale. So the network basically, the team is proposing launching a program, venture for MENA basically, that is focused on putting Jordan as a hub within the MENA under the spotlight at the global level. And at the basic level, this can start by having a GUST or a hockey stick account that startups would apply on, and we have the portfolio ready, the deals are vetted and what have you, and inviting more and more investors to look into this space. Again, JCP has two focus areas other than ICT, which are clean tech and healthcare. And we were looking again throughout the angel space to disrupt how would we bring in support and more innovation and up front. So the idea here is launching X-Prize type of competitions, be it directly with the X-Prize Foundation or modeling the concept. For you not familiar with X-Prize, basically it's a disruption type of competition where you set a disruptive, innovative target and ask people to operate as teams and create solutions toward this task that is set. And if you do, then you get the prize. And Elon Musk, the guy that created the Tesla car, for example, he started this by asking people to create a rocket that flies X for an X height versus stay up for a certain time. If you do, you get this prize. Last but not least is now this basically is heading towards the end of year 3, and this is where the focus towards helping corporations have more support and become more engaged in the startup ecosystem. So by then the network will launch a corporate program hoping to have members as corporates within the network. Yes. And I think it's time to invest. That's the punchline.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Excellent presentation. So now we want to open it up for discussion. I know we presented more short-term. The short-term ones were in the year 2, leading to the network. And then there are the action items or activities that will follow after the network is in place. So I want to start that discussion by getting the feedback on the overall strategy. What are things that you've seen based on your experience, and we can start just getting the feedback overall, and then we can go into specific points. Yeah.
My name is Heather Henyon, and I'm from Wayne, Women's Angel Investment Network in Dubai. And I think it's a great idea. Clearly, a lot of thought has gone into it, and it looks very ambitious, which I'm always excited by. But I think we should look also at some of the learning experiences in the region. And I don't know if you're familiar with SILA out of Doha, but I think one of the learnings from the region has been that when we have government created or imposed angel networks, they don't succeed because angel networks really are organic. They're created through our networks, and they require trust. And it's very difficult, especially in this region, to create trust between, I think, government and people. So if there's a way to kind of look at some of the success stories, Tenmu and Bahrain, I don't know if you've talked with Hassan Haider, they've been very successful. They used a shareholder company model instead of direct angel investments. Hossam Alam from Cairo Angels, they've been around now for I think 3 years. They've got 70 members, but again, it was an organic creation where they started and over time kind of were able to scale their membership through their networks of kind of friends and colleagues. And that's what we've done as well with Wayne. We're an independent organization. We're a BVI. It's basically a network of women who know each other. It's not anyone can join. It's open through references and referrals. And that's how we kind of preserve the exclusivity, if you will, of the so there's some good learnings, I think. Regionally, there are also some international models, like we've got Daphne from Golden Seeds who can talk about sort of their experience, but obviously the US is different from the region.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we definitely looked into different models. Hassan was part of the people that were interviewed from Tenmu on their model, and he basically and he basically helped shed more light on how would you have a network that has a limited liability structure, yet operate in a club model to an extent.
Who would manage this network? Is this through USAID and government backing, or is this something independent that would
Anything we do, and if we end up supporting, it will have to stand on its own later on. So it has to be a sustainable model. And that's why, but we're here to support, to help create something. But yes, it has to take its own shape later on and move forward.
But who will start it?
Well, that's why it's a member-based. That's why, Rami mentioned there's a couple of, initiatives that are out there that are looking into this, such as AMINA 2 potentially. There are organizations within the ecosystem that could start this. Again, that's something that will follow through. But we can be that first step to support it. And that one thing we want to emphasize, when we wrote that network, we don't want to say that this is an exclusive network where this is, it duplicates something that was there. Any existing network can be part of this system. That's because this is going to be open for everybody. And that's the idea about it. And that's why we're doing all these initiatives ahead, so that that network will start providing a lot of these services that will create that value.
So it's a network of different angel groups, or it's an actual network, or an actual angel group with members?
National one, with potential, any network can join and have its own group within the network. That's how we look at it.
Question down here.
Where is it?
Yeah.
Like the presentation. So speak up, Bobby, speak up.
That's okay.
I know it's the Thursday and the energy's down, but
To reach out, but I think it comes from a certain angle.
yeah, you have to speak it closer, yeah.
So, because, and I understand where JCP is coming from with the proposal of doing it from a local perspective. So you're looking at, because JCP is looking at Jordan, not at the region. And what we actually recently launched is something very, very similar in approach. We have in partnership with the European Business Angel Network launched the MENA Business Angel Network, which actually it was 1 week ago or so. Which has basically the similar steps as what you're mentioning. So you have to train, do a boot camp, provide support services for this. But then with also the view of having it from a local but also regional level and connect them together. Because a lot of, if you look at startups that are looking for angels, they're not looking for angels only in Jordan, because you need also the support if they want to move to GCC, to have GCC type of angels supporting them to access market, to access certain corporates at the end of the day.
So how's that local and regional part come together?
Well, it's the MBAN as it's called is built based on the model of what the EBAN is doing. And EBAN is basically a union of a number of local business angel networks, like you have, for example, you have one in France, you have one in the UK, and linking them together with also providing a similar type of support, similar type of terminology, similar type of, and doing the trainings, the workshops, the boot camps.
It's an umbrella structure, so you have kind of the network at top, and then you have angel groups to become members of the network. So in a way, this is a problem actually I find in the region. There's very little information sharing between angel groups. So like I know EBAN really well. I didn't even know they had this MBAN.
Yeah, we started MBAN and ABAN, Africa, BAN, and MENA.
Yeah, so there are all these things happening, and I think there's too much replication going on in the region. So if there's a way, for example, Silotech actually bought the Golden Seeds curriculum 2 years ago, and it's never been used in the region. And it's a really good curriculum, and if there's a way we can leverage that for the region, and we're actually looking at localizing it and then offering it to other angel investors. But I know that, why keep recreating things and when it's not a big market to begin with, so let's leverage what we have.
Can I make a comment about that?
Sure.
So one of the statistics is in the United States that angel groups, 75% of deals are done locally. So clearly there's a rationale and a reason people, given the nature of angel investing, people want to invest locally. Certainly whether it's diaspora or it's people who remain here and want to nurture these economies. But it is true that, for example, in the United States, the Angel Capital Association acts in the U.S., and I think it's international, but seems to be dominant in the U.S., as a place where angel networks come together on a regular basis. They have conferences, they hold events where people do training, And most importantly, it offers the opportunity for people to meet one another to syndicate deals.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's really the point, and that's the point of the European Angel. You know, it's any given country. It's an opportunity to not replicate, for one, and not put oneself in a position where you're competing with prospective partners, so that people are leveraging their regional strengths and then can leverage it and really put, because part of the problem is you're up at, you know, that early stage, but the time, you know, if things work as they should, you're going to get to that next stage. And if everybody's doing this in these little ways, and then, you know, requiring sort of to re-up on investments, there isn't the ability to come together and leverage the best of class and make sure that there are sufficient resources behind that. So at some point in the very near future, if things go as they should, syndication will become a big issue, or ideally, right?
Yeah.
Maybe to add to that, you know, so this MMAN is incubated by eBay.
Yes.
So what
Right.
we also will do is bring European business angels that have the experience, that will invest, which also give an example and create trust for other people to invest.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that, by the way, I mean, in terms of Golden Seeds training, for example, Golden Seeds does this training. We've done this training in Tunisia and in Egypt and Morocco and a bunch of other places. But the angel group itself is very U.S. focused.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's followed, it's a training, there's, you know, 101, 201, I mean, there's a whole series of trainings that have done that are actually very helpful for people who are not familiar with this asset class, and it's a way to help them really feel comfortable.
Right.
But at the end of the day, this angel network itself does not tend to be invested.
Okay, Mr. Khalid.
That was a very good presentation. I think it was encompassing. Before we go actually to the network and the structure, I think there's a fundamental issue that needs to be tackled in Jordan. And I think out of long experience here trying to support on a personal level startups and having started many businesses on my own. The big challenge, I think, is not finding the angel, it's finding the projects. And in a country like Jordan, where the local market is a little bit limited, and the access to regional market isn't exactly the easiest in the current climate. The challenge is to find ideas that have a level of return on investment that justifies the risk that exists in angel investing. What I have seen here in the past is, and I probably have met maybe 15 or 20 people with ideas here. Some had good ideas, but those ideas are really Jordan-centric. You can't get returns on the market the size of Jordan. Other ones, the research hasn't been done, or they're trying to replicate something that they have no chance to succeed. I saw a lot of, there is a lack of maturity, or you don't expect it to be mature, but at least lack of creativity that comes in. I think in what you guys have done, I think it's great, but I think the biggest, in order for that whole system the whole infrastructure to succeed, definitely there needs to be more focus on the idea creation.
Have these been ICT focused?
Yeah, in my area, they have been primarily ICT, or more or less around the ICT area. The issue, if I am an angel investor here, I expect to take risk, but also I expect that there is a risk-adjusted return to what I do. And so far, I see the biggest thing, as you mentioned, there's lots of banks somebody said there's lots of money in the banks. Yes, there's a lot of money for investment here. And yes, you can easily educate investors here about the value of angel. There's enough role models and success stories around the world to convince anybody that this could be good value. But again, I refocus, I think, from the USAID side, really a lot of focus has to come in educating the...
And actually on that education, so the deal pipeline is an issue. and that, you know,
It is big.
and you have people that have good ideas, but not, you know, they don't know the, you know, the principles and how to actually grow a company, etc. So that's one area, and that's why we, you know, one of the areas we wanted, there's a demand and supply initiatives we're taking. And so investment readiness, by definition, is actually teaching them that whole story. How do you think about, you know, business? What, you know, what are the questions you need to ask? How do you scale that business up? And so these are some of the things that we're looking at. But there's also the issue of actually creating more pipelines, because people say there aren't, you know, even good ideas are scarce. So is that, you know, another thing that
That's the core issue, is to create. I think, you know, whenever you have supply opportunities, there is demand, and I can say there is significant demand for interesting ideas. But again, another advice for you is the direction. You know, what is a good idea in the U.S. may not be a good idea in Jordan, because the nature of Jordan and the size of the market and the regional elements, so forth, differ greatly. So many of the entrepreneurs need to understand, because you're sitting there and you're thinking of something. You need to think in something that actually, as you said, scalable, that goes beyond this country, that you do at least some of the basic research about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you guys can support the infrastructure, the entrepreneurs, or the entrepreneurs wannabes here, everybody wants to be entrepreneur, and educate them beyond giving them money and boot camp. I think it's got to start on the idea creation side, on, you know, from an early stage, maybe in high school or even before, so that you create this supply. And once you have the supply, I think the demand and the network, and this has been done everywhere. I mean, it's not rocket science, you know, you just write it down if you can create the supply side.
Has that been improving over the past few years?
Uh,
Or the pipeline?
I'm not sure. You know, I cannot comment. There's more supply, but I can't tell you about the quality. I think
if you look at the exhibition area and the main ICT, you will see that there is no IP in Jordan. Very few companies in Jordan focus on IP, and there is no good ideas in the startups route. This is really an interesting thing that we should think about it.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I believe I cannot disagree with all what you've said. Problem in investing money. Problem is the whole ecosystem and infrastructure for supporting and investing in entrepreneurs or startups in Jordan. Access to market for them is a challenge. By the way, most of the angel investment money that is invested in startups in Jordan at the end of the day has the same drainage. So you put the money and all the money goes to the same drainage. Because they use the same setup. They either pay for rent or for electricity or for their own salaries. They build the idea. And what I have seen in the morning session, you know, the startups, they are so engaged to their idea, where they even challenge the big corporates. No, our idea will save you millions, and you insist to pay millions. So the minute they come with this idea and with this attitude, you say, fine, okay, go find another corporate to save $1 million. I don't want to save this $1 million. The challenge is how to create this ecosystem and how to create this infrastructure. I 100% agree, and we have to go pre-entrepreneurship, pre-start. Okay, we have to go to the people who are ready to be entrepreneurs, who are ready to be startups, but they need someone to give them the direction. We have to get all enablers engaged. If the government starts something, it fails, maybe I would agree. But without government as an enabler, it will also fail to scale the idea within the Jordanian market or to support the entrepreneurs in Jordan. So all stakeholders has to be on board within this ecosystem. All stakeholders has to be engaged with the ecosystem. Startups need to be guided, and they need to know what do they need to work. That we have to tell them. It's not that you have read the story on the internet and now you want to implement this story, or you have played a game and you want to copy that game. If you want to be a startup and entrepreneur, we have requirements as corporates, and we need to get the corporates together. So and I prefer to build a network of stakeholders rather than a network of angel investors, because a network of stakeholders can give you benefits and values much more than the angel investor dollars. It can give you reach to markets. Today, you sign up with Zain in Jordan, you get an access to 45 million subscribers across the region. You sign up a deal with McDonald's, okay, you have a reach to McDonald's. You sign a deal with Cisco, you can, in a way or another, reach the regional Cisco office, the regional markets, and maybe the international at a later stage. There are success stories, Jordanian success stories, who made it to multinational, but they went so international actually, serving 35 or 40 countries. They went out of the region as well. So I 100% agree with every word that you said, and I second you. We have to build a network of entrepreneurs and startup support from all stakeholders, government, private sector, from all sectors, being industrial, services, financial, schools, universities, hospitals. They are stakeholders and they have to be there. And we have to build a network of funds and angel investors. We have to get incubators and accelerators involved into it. They have to all sit together like you are doing today, because they can give value much more than the money itself. I can, with one fund, I can incubate 5 startups rather than paying 5 startups the same fund. If I give them a common infrastructure to use. I'm not talking about co-working space. I'm talking about everything. Access to technology, space, platforms, licenses, partners, access to markets. In this case, and I give them the guidance what to work on and how to do it if you want to have revenue at the end of the day. And this is where I say, we're not doing it for charity. It's being done for a return on investment. A return on investment is not an angel. A return on investment is a devil at a certain point of time. Okay, because we are looking at money, okay, and we need the profitability of it. We might spare some money, which we're not bothered about losing it. But if I want to be an investor, that means I have to look at how much this will get me back. Angel investors in the US, in such a huge market, with such a big, or such a highly matured an online infrastructure market, ideas that flies, the risk that you take is much lower, because the ideas flies very fast. There is a demand, there is a mature infrastructure. People are living 50% online, 50% offline. Here you're talking about 70% of the population who are eligible for banking, for bank accounts. They don't have bank accounts. And they don't use credit cards. And the logistics network that we have in Jordan are so limited. The whole ecosystem, there are gaps in the whole ecosystem. So you have to get all the stakeholders. Sorry, I know I speak too much. This is how I wake up.
First off, thank you guys. Great presentation. A lot of data, and I learned a lot. I think you guys obviously put a lot of work and effort into it. And I agree with Habib and Ahmed, but before I go into that, I did a few investments here, a few investments in the States on the angel level. And the angel level investment for me is a very personal thing. At that stage of the company, I want to affiliate with the founder. I love the idea. I'm sorry. So, I love the idea. It's a personal thing. It is not an investment like you could like buying a stock, right? By definition, that's what the angels are. I think there's an issue here with that. I also think there's a bigger issue with the second round after the angels as in seed, which is another story. But if you're going to do a network, as some of the people here suggested, then you need to have, if I was to invest in an angel network, I need to know who the champion is. I'm investing in that person, I'm investing in that manager. So it's either, again, going to be a personal thing, or you probably want to look at the fund structure. Then it becomes, less emotional, and really it's an angel fund. It's a fund of small doses, if you will. And then I definitely agree with Habib and Ahmed that what you guys can really do is enable the environment. I don't know how much government support or government influence you want, but I think there's a lot of things you can do in terms of enabling the environment, as in putting the steps of what the companies need to go through, as a scoreboard of what the angel, what the companies need to do before they go pitch to angels. What the guys need to do after they get the angel investment to graduate and go to seed funds. And I'm not talking just about, ideas and concepts. I'm talking about details of really what mentorees are. And then maybe do that the angel network alliance, if you will, and then have sub-networks that are subject specific, where you have a champion. I think there's untapped potential in Jordan in medical services, medical industries. There's untapped potential in retail. We had a session this morning with Amjad Aryan about what he's doing with retail in Jordan. And there's a huge potential there. You could have a group of subject matter experts lead that network. I think Habib mentioned a lot of those already. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you just from my experience. If you want to invest in a company or an angel, and to me, there's three things you look at, and we were talking about this just the other day. Is this a market that I think I want to associate with? Is this something that I think there's potential? Do I see the product? Do I see the fit? The second thing is the team, and to me, that's the most important thing. It's not just the team. Is this the right team for this particular concept? And the third thing is, is there going to be traction? Is there market validation? Is this concept going to scale? And I think, to me, those are the main things that these guys need to know. But also, they need to be honest with themselves. I really think that they read something on the internet, oh, it's a great idea, I'm going to go start it. Well, that doesn't work that way. And what I find also, there is a lack of focus. You need to be laser focused, especially in technology, just because it's so huge and so big, and you can't be doing many things at the same time. You need to have one thing to get and go and be clear with it. And obviously, a lot of soft skills like listening, hearing. I interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs, and they basically you ask them a question and they're very defensive and trying to knock you down as much as learn from what the question is. So there's a lot of the soft things that we do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, just one comment I zoom on the EBAN, the European Business Angel Network. So we looked at something, we said we want to do a network in Jordan. It came out as JBAN, which means a coward. So we didn't want to do that. But anyway, I wonder if the discussion here, we understand there is supply and there is demand. And I understand there are issues on the demand side, which is the entrepreneur side. There is a lot of work need to be done there. To have deals that are more demand driven, that identify a clear issue in the market and provide a solution. But I don't think it's an issue of either or. I don't think it's, well, we need to work on this before we start working on the angels themselves. So, or do you think there is no point of working with the angels because there is, money will follow deals and they will come? Or should we work on, as JCP, we should work on both sides of the equation?
I think on that one, the big issue is, yes, you have to have the infrastructure in place. But again, people, investors also, today, this is investors are like nomads. They go anywhere where opportunities are. And tomorrow I have access to be in Dubai, putting the city, and unless you're doing it for charity or doing it for nationalistic reason, if it's purely commercial, you are going to go where you find the opportunities and the return. So you have to create here something that's attractive for not only Jordanians, because money here can move, today push three buttons and money travels anywhere. So I think it's important to have the business around first. And we used to say something. I mean, I have two kids out of college and they went to the best schools in the US. Where are they? They're not here. They're in Dubai. So we spend a fortune educating our kids, sending them to the best schools in Jordan and taking them to Ivy League schools, and then we pack them as a present to Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, ready with no investment. So I think, and the reason many of these kids do not stay here is because, first of all, you need to have, you need to have an experience, you need to have the idea, you need to have the infrastructure, the entrepreneurs. So I think the issue is not as simple. I think you need like a whole session like this to go through that part, which is really the raw material for what you guys are trying to do. So I think.
I'd just like to basically, I think I'll just raise my voice. I think just being very practical, away from the generalizations and the discussions we can have. I'm not going to go into the theory. We're in this, and at the end, I'm an accelerator, and I have a mandate, and I want to ask just two questions. One, what should I expect potentially in terms of the actual value of money that you might be generating from these networks that can help? Have you thought about that process? So, for example, if I came and just gave you an example, if I said that, well, we have 100 companies in our portfolio, and we're expecting that these 100 in the next 3 years will be raising this much that they need to generate from angel networks or angels per se in the rounds. So what are you working against potentially seeing this deliver a specific amount that we need to consider as part of our value chain? Because I mean that's how we measure at least. This year we raised $4 million in 2014, and we've been for follow-on funding from angels for our portfolio company. So what contribution should I forecast and take into consideration in that? The second element, just my perspective, having spent a year here, is that I think we need to either agree or disagree, and just be clear about it, that either we are going to be king makers, basically, where we want to create the right valuations, push for the right valuations, bring in the right investors who are willing to adopt these valuations without going into the logic or the reasons of why these valuations work or not. But at the end, I think that it's not that complicated. I don't think we have, I'm looking at from more than 260, 250 companies in Jordan today that are defined as startups within that community. So it's easy for us to have a surgical approach and look at these entities and see what valuations are they targeting even, and collectively decide who wants to collaborate on driving that value and raising the capital that they need at different stages so they can deliver against those expectations. So I'm probably looking for two answers. One, what are the numbers that you think we will be generating from this, from an investment capacity? And the second basically is, how do you see us collaborating on delivering the value that these startups are asking for, without going into why, and the reasons, and are they right or are they wrong?
Yusuf, I think the idea behind this is that we're working with the idea that there are deals, but the quality is not there. And the quality is for a variety of reasons that were discussed here. So, they don't understand the right concepts about investing. They don't know how to scale up their company. They have a good technical knowledge about something, and that's where it ends. And that's where a lot of the value you guys are doing. I mean, that's, in a way, we're just trying to expand this because that's, so it's a quality and quantity. I mean, we're trying, that network eventually.
But I mean, at the end, look at it this way. I mean, I have a startup. I go to this room and I tell them, this startup is asking for a valuation of $500,000. People say, too much. You're inflating the value. Great. I go to another room and I ask individuals, this is asking for $500,000. And I convince them of the value proposition. Someone comes and says, here's the $50,000 you're asking against that valuation. So I think from that angle, I'm concerned when I see a lot of discussions about depressing valuations, models, going into the requirements of, is this right, is this wrong, are they focused, are they not focused? At the end, my metric for success is I have companies, I need to see how I can make them valid propositions and find the investor that's interested enough. I mean, one thing that was mentioned clearly by Zaid, is at the end, angel investing is a personal thing. And people will come in and they'll decide on the value that they feel is appropriate, and then they'll decide how they can potentially contribute to making it successful or not. So, not about the discussion, do you have a specific figure that you think that this angel network will hopefully contribute to on an annual basis, and so that we can incorporate it into our forecast in terms of what we can access as capital in that angel stage?
No, the answer is right now, no. Exact numbers, no. But the idea is to help the infrastructure with the existing deals, to make them better, more investable, to create new deals, to provide the angels with the necessary support and co-investment to actually make that, decision to actually invest. Because even some angel investors are shying away because the system is not supporting as well. So this network will provide that kind of support. So it's a variety of things. But we still feel that connection, that network is needed. Because there's reports that can be, provided, co-investment opportunities, follow-on investment. And that's...
I'm just taking the point here. Okay. Radi mentioned a point that doesn't exist here. I don't know if you're going to discuss that. We talked about IBAN. I mean, IBAN, we've been in discussions with them. The only reason IBAN exists is that it is tax deductible. Okay? That's why it exists. Now, how are we going to be here doing that in Jordan? And GCC or anyone else, there's no tax deductible.
Well, actually, it's part of their role also the lobby group to go to government.
Will we see that happen potentially here? Tax deductible?
Doesn't it exist partly because they're deals? I mean, people want to invest, right?
Yeah,
Right.
of course.
So they're good deals. That's the point.
I think they're
Right.
lots
So-
of good deals myself.
But I think I found it a bit depressing to hear that there's no quality, there's no IP, there's no talent, there's no thing. Also, if we look at investment, if you look at typical angel investment, what is the percentage of successful companies here that get investment globally?
Okay, but I want
20%.
It's less. It's worse than that.
Yeah.
It's much worse than that. But that's not the point. The point is that your job here, you're trying to seed something that's going to be successful. That's your goal. So as an outsider, I've been here for 3 days, and there is a recurring observation, which those who've been with me will think it's, and I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but I live in the United States where there is all these people, and they're all wearing hoodies, and they're all really big, good business guys, and they all went to the schools that you sent your children to, and they're all, and in my age, what we used to say is, when I got out of college, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, I put a backpack on my back and backpack across Europe and stay in hostels. Now you graduate from college and you have to do a startup, okay? Everybody has to do, you don't go traveling, you do a startup. That's what, and this is the sort of culture that Steve Blank,
there aren't jobs here. That's why people start their own companies.
I understand that, and that is hugely, and that is terrific. And there's a global entrepreneurial spirit that exists that some countries are better at than others, and that makes a lot of sense. The thing that I've observed being here for the last 3 days is that there's a huge amount of raw talent, okay? I live in a country where you cannot find good engineering talent and good developers. You got a lot of business people, but it is really hard to find good talent. You live in a country in which there is all this raw talent, where people grow up thinking they should become, they want to do science, they want to be engineers. I deal with women, young women, who at 13, you're spending all this energy trying to convince them to stay in science. You're graduating in, a country in which 60% of the engineers are women. Okay? So the talent is there. So my feedback to you is, maybe you should all invest in a company that actually is going to train this raw talent to take its skills, and what is the term that we've used the last few days, is develop the soft skills that it takes to actually conceptualize and build businesses that are going to be globally, or at very least regionally, competitive, and want to make your son and daughter, or whoever they are, come back here, take the talents they have, and lead those companies to success. And that's the piece that's missing, as far as I can tell.
Okay, and Daphne, can we get more details on this? The reason I'm saying is that you can have a training course for 3 days or 4 days.
No, I would say JCP.
What things have you seen?
JCP should go talk to every university, start in Amman, all right? And say, in every engineering course that you run, okay, there's going to be, you can now have a minor, and we will bring in curriculum for you to develop a curriculum where you have a minor in business. okay? An entrepreneurship where you learn those so-called soft skills.
And to build on that, part of it is bringing all of you in as potential investors to tell them what you're looking for.
And you're the mentors.
Because we asked, we've been here for a few days talking to different people, and they have no clue. And that's why they're coming to you, and you're looking at the deals or the pitches, and you're going, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And they don't realize that. They have no clue. They have no
It's
clue.
because they're not informed, that's part
That's
of
right.
it.
But what we're
That's
saying
right.
is
So
that
that's what we're
inform them.
saying. So
The
inform them.
combination of formal training, but as importantly, I think, is sort of the interaction with this community, the interaction with entrepreneurs, but more importantly, the interaction with investors. For you to say, and I know that we do it during pitches and whatever, but to do formal feedback sessions where you have a panel of the investors not deciding who to invest in or not, because maybe you're not going to invest in any of them, to tell them, give them the feedback and say, you know what, this is a good idea, but here are the 3 things that you need to do before I even think about investing. Or this is not a good idea, and here are the 3 reasons why it's not a good idea. But all the things that you're telling us, I'm getting the sense that these young people who have the potential, if they heard some of the feedback, they're not stupid. They're smart, and they've got some of the technical expertise. And if you did, they would start pivoting in a way that would respond to the market, being you, at least the investor market. I don't mean the overall markets that.
But teach the course not as investors. Teach the course as the business people that they aspire to be. All right? Teach them the skills that they need to be successful the way you've been successful. That's the piece that seems to be missing in a way that will make you globally competitive.
Yeah, so I'm usually the optimist, so I have to do my optimism thing.
First, it's at the scene.
No, I mean genuinely, right? So first of all, on the education side, I think you're 100% right. I think the way education is morphing, and we're looking at bringing a few programs ourselves into the country, the way that education is morphing, particularly in computer sciences, it has become fundamentally a 3-month curricula with soft skills that is churning out the most employable engineers today in the world. So spending 4 years in college versus spending 3 months in these programs, you have a much higher likelihood of becoming employed in one of these programs, simply because technology is changing so quickly. The infrastructure is there. The US has done a fantastic job with it, with the GA. Europe has done a fantastic job. And it's coming. We're going to bring it one way, whether we all do it together, one of us does it, at some point in time. We're just going to do it, right? The game's over in that sense. I think, though, as it relates to the work that Rami has done and Amar, what you've done, the first time you guys presented this to me, it rung in my head. And I think we just need to temper ourselves for a second. We're not talking here about investing in 10,000 entrepreneurs next week, right? We're saying about creating one functioning angel network in this country, right? Which is driven by a sense of drive for a personal aspect towards these things, right? Today the challenge we have is that we don't have 10 people that invest together. I mean, just plain and simple. Whether they bring their forces together or whether they don't, right? Nobody's saying that we're going to invest in 10 deals or 100 deals or 3 deals. They're only going to invest in deals that they like. But today, and I'm driven by this because actually I came back from the Bay Area 4 days ago, and I saw 100, and Zaid was with me. I saw 120 Jordanian students that were dying to come back, right? Bright guys, whether they're from Stanford or from Cal, or people that were working, and I'm tired of pushing them away, right? I'm tired of saying, no, listen, keep going there, you look so happy, everything's fine. Right? They genuinely want to give back, and give back is not a sin to say. You can give back and make money, so they genuinely want to give back, they genuinely want to make a difference. And I think having an active, effective angel network, if we only catch 3 people that disrupt this country, so be it. Okay, if we catch 10, if we catch 20, if we catch 50, all the better, right? But I mean, ultimately, it's going to take 1 or 2 guys that are going to fundamentally disrupt this generation, right? We had our Shoman, we had our Darwaze, we had our Fadi, we had our, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all these guys, many of you guys on this table, right? It took 1 guy to transform everything. So I think ultimately it's about the power of 1. I'm 100% in favor of an angel network. I think the nice part about it is and it can be 1 guy with 10 friends, Habib, you and 10 guys, Zaid, you and 10 guys.
How many women?
There was a point in my discussion that I said I really should stop. I can't away with it for this round. I should just stop.
Yeah.
So I'm stopping. Message delivered.
Sorry, I just want to, by the way, investing in angel is a risky business.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark and
It's
recently.
for love, not for money.
It's risky. and
Labor of love.
The success rate for VC, and you guys know better than I know, is much higher than at the angel stage. Mark and recent the other day was saying there's 4,000 companies
ridiculous.
chasing VC money in the United States at any one time. Probably the bulk of them are in Silicon Valley. Out of which 200 will get funded. Out of which 15 will control 97% of all of the revenue generated.
Yes.
That could have been generated by the 4,000 companies.
That's
And
the
at
VC model.
Angel is even riskier than that. So I think it's a part of the enabling environment. People need to know this. You know, this is really people. You know, if the VC rate is success is 2% or whatever it is, 2 out of 10, Angel is less than that. The other thing, Emil and I walked through an accelerator called Startup in Menlo Park just last week. They toured us around. The one comment I told Emil on the way out, there's a bunch of entrepreneurs, a bunch of companies. I think the average age of the entrepreneur is between 35 and 40.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, Hoffman, 39.
Yeah.
Average
Hoffman
age of
says 39.
first
So
startup.
you can't, you know, it's our job to educate the people out of colleges here that never worked or worked a year or so, that don't know what business is. You're not ready to start a company. You know, there's few people like Mark Zuckerberg and those guys. You know, you might be, but you know, chances are you not. You know, and that's I think what you guys could do in educating the whole. That's a part of the education and getting the whole system.
Educating the angels as well that they need that a lot of these
You need to get some work
investments.
experience.
Yeah.
So it was
Details, details.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sharif, and then Hala next. Sorry.
As an investor here, I think I see value in what you're trying to do, definitely. I see, I take comfort in knowing that there is a network if there is a network in Jordan, what can connect me with people of, similar mentality, interests, and so on. Instead of doing it, what we're doing now, because I know Habib and I know Emil and I know Zaid, and they might call me on this deal and they might not call me on the other deal, which is fine, but I don't think this is going to create the momentum that can lift this industry altogether. So I see value in what you're trying to do, definitely, and I think as an investor, I would like to see this available in the country. The other thing though, and I'm not sure if this is what you can do, and aside from what you guys have spoken about, which is very important, is educating them and training them and all of that, even if they're ready, what I find is that, as any business, when you start the business and it's, with the right people and they have the right idea and they understand everything, they're going to face problems, and an angel investor is not going to be really, all of us have our own businesses. We're not a fund like Emil focused on doing this as a business. I am, in my business, he's in his business, we're traveling this. We're not going to have time to spend a lot of time with these guys. To give me comfort as an investor, I'd like to see someone, I don't know who, is it you or somebody else, that can work with these guys who are smart, who know what they're doing, and they have the right story and the right idea, but they're going to face problems and they need help. So who can provide that help? Is it another thing that you guys or this network can provide, or is it somebody else who has to create it?
Yeah, one of the things that actually was mentioned, I think talking to Hala the other day, there is a coaching side.
Yeah.
So a lot of businesses the coach doesn't have to be the actual angel investor, but the coaches, they talk to the company every month or once a month, Skype call, etc. And it proves to be very effective because they discuss something. The next month they're going to ask them, did you do what you said?
That was me.
And
That was a model we have in the U.S. where we succeeded in accelerating women-owned businesses. Even in the States, only 2.4% of women-owned businesses ever get to $1 million in revenue. So we had a program called Make Mine $1 Million, where we took women in the missing middle that they had viable businesses, but they were only $250,000 to $750,000, and then they got stuck and they couldn't grow. Even though they have potential scalable models, but they couldn't figure out how to grow them. And after a year, like the top woman performer who had been stuck at 350 for about 6 years was at 5.1 million, then 14.2. She went from 10 employees to 115 employees and was still growing. And one of the key things I was telling Rami, there were 3 things. All the women who got to $1 million, of course, we debriefed with them and said of all the things that we offered you, what would make a difference? One was just declaring publicly and recognizing that to have $1 million business when you're 350 is different than growing from 350 to 375 to 400. It means tripling your business. That's a different model. That's a whole different market maybe and everything else, so that was one. Second thing was this coaching thing, which did what you would expect, help them identify priorities, but more importantly, I think, what they told us was that it helped them provide accountability, because most of these entrepreneurs work alone, they don't have boards, and so if they don't meet the priority, things that they've identified, who knows, then they push it off, push it off, push it off. And even if they work with a partner, the partners push it off. So the accountability that the coach for a year played in, and they then gave them a sense of discipline. And then the third thing was we had a huge peer community, 70,000 women-owned businesses across the United States, where we had a social networking platform that they could share and solve each other's problems, and we had lots of meetups. So then they recognized two things. It gave them confidence, and they saw these other women, they said, oh, I'm not stupid, and everybody's struggling with these issues. Number one, and number two, oh, by the way, somebody else has figured out how to fire their employee in the first place. Somebody else has figured out where do I go for a tech system for a service business instead of for a manufacturing business. Or all these technical things that you're talking about, all these issues and challenges that there's no way for, even if you've had business experience, you might still not have, the answer to these operational and technical problems.
That's what
So
accelerators
that really,
yeah.
that really made the difference.
Yeah, first of all, I think you should do an angel network, even if I think there's a lot of other work that needs to be done as well. And I think you will learn that it's not just about the returns. It's actually about giving back and receiving a lot. And one of the most interesting things I've experienced with pulling groups together informally, mostly because the US is furthest ahead, I think, in making this formal, is that you learn a lot from seeing these millennials. Things are changing really fast. It's not just about technology, but this is a generation that thinks so differently about how they choose where to work and what they want to do. And I really think that this can be a bilateral value contribution if you do this well. So it does a lot more than the money. Plus, it's really fun to get together with bright minds that come from different places and learn from each other. So I think there's a lot of value in this beyond the return. So I think you should do it. But I just want to share a story because what I'm struck with after my 3 days in Jordan, and of course this is always shallow when you're new to a country, but I came back to 1999, smallest country ever. I left, I stayed for 10 years. I wasn't going to come back. I came back for family reasons. And I was one of many who wanted to come back for a long time, but I didn't find it exciting to come back. So when I came back, I decided I need to give back. And what we did, we had one university in Iceland at the time, pretty much, and it taught great technical skills. 800 people in a room with one teacher who knew it all, one directional, disseminating knowledge. We taught no skills, we taught no attitudes. We didn't teach people entrepreneurship, we didn't do any of that. So I came together with a group of great people. We founded a new university from the ground up called Reykjavik University, now the leading university in the country 15 years later. And we actually made entrepreneurship and gender major themes underpinning everything we did. And the gender thing was about really keeping a leadership of using all of our resources. But the entrepreneurship thing is something you can teach. It's not really a technical skill. It's a soft skill set. And we really taught it. So we taught engineering, we taught law, we taught business, we taught computer science. That's actually where we started, because we were trying to raise the competitiveness of Iceland. But we taught all of them to come together in cross-functional teams and learn entrepreneurship from year one. We taught them, and I really think you need to go back to this level and teach entrepreneurship, teach leadership, teach a lot of these things that I think, from what I'm hearing, is the missing piece. And I think that will build a stronger ecosystem of itself.
And on that, there's, some people also give you feedback in the sense that the existing support, back office operations, is that an issue for the companies that they need support and that's impacting their success? Meaning, whether it's accounting or financial, etc. And the reason I say this, they might learn that they need to do cash flow statement, but if they don't have somebody that can help them to do it, or if they don't have the right systems to do it, are these issues that also should be addressed from that?
But Omar, may I get the discussion back to why this session is about? We at JCP, we have other programs working with Oasis, we work with Mina Apps, we work with many other people, and with Emil on that entrepreneurship side and building the companies, getting the investment ready, do all these good you're talking about. I think this session is about the angel side. Do we need to work with the angels? And if not, tell us, God, you don't need to work with the angels. Don't waste your time. Or this is a good idea, work with it. That's what I didn't hear so far.
But we're talking demand and supply activities. So
I understand. But the discussion is going more toward building entrepreneurs. And
Absolutely.
this is about the angel network.
No, it's completely, but there are some.
I would give a simple answer, yes.
Okay.
I just want to basically also associate it with some metrics that we can start to work with, but having such a network works well.
Yusuf, can I make a point there? And the slide's not up, but taking Wissam's point, there is a slide. We're not proposing per se to launch a network from day one. There's a set of almost pilot kind of supply and demand side driven activities, working with stakeholders and reaching back out to you. The Oasis is the angels, the ventures, and having another conversation to see that model and taking some of the best practices that we ourselves have learned the last few days. To not reinvent the wheel. And then, Yusuf, we thought about some of the pilot metrics that make sense for an angel boot camp or a startup investment readiness, utilizing the good work from Oasis. So, we're not necessarily espousing the Big Bang Theory, if you will, but to learn further from a next level of conversations, but knowing that we have a mandate to disrupt, if you will, sooner than later.
I mean, I just want to add to it. Yes, we do need an angel network. I think it's going to be, that's my take into it. But I hope that we can do it from here to be more regional also. So that for this to have the right impact, there are other networks happening, but I think there are a lot of individuals. We've gone on an exercise where we've been recruiting actively our own angels. Okay, so our own networks that we keep going to, but they're not a network. We've been going to multiple areas outside of Jordan specifically for the purpose of diversifying things and allowing that intimate relationship to be created. We've seen individuals who are willing to invest behind things that they care for, okay, or they are interested in, or that they feel that their family conglomerates allow them to accelerate them in a different way. So if this angel network can not only be Jordan specific, but can look at investors from across a larger ecosystem, that would be just an additional great step to take.
I think if I may add to that, when we're talking about supply and demand, an angel network will also expose people to startups. I think so because today there are a lot of angels that don't see all the startups because Yusuf is saying 200 startups. I don't know where they are, right? No, but he knows them, so he can, if he's part of a network, he can expose the top startups to these people that are really willing to invest, which would otherwise not see those startups. So I think that's another advantage to solve the supply demand.
Yeah. No, and actually, to be clear, yes, being an angel discussion, but we're trying to make it easier for angels to invest.
No, but I'm saying the angel network will also partly bridge the supply and demand because the angels will be more exposed to startups. Because, for example, Oasis and ourselves are working together on some level. We have events in Palestine, for example, and we show those startups to Oasis, and we co-invest together in those startups. And that's on a one-to-one level. So, if you do that on a one-to-n level, then it's good.
Yeah, and if I can throw in another endorsement for the Angel Network, which is that just simply by having qualified investors, and I don't mean it literally in the U.S. definition, but meaning those of you who are in the position to invest and interested in investing, will raise the quality at some level of the startups, because there's going to be a natural interaction between, in the ecosystem. I mean, this is an evolutionary process. There's going to be a learning curve on the angel side, and there'll be a learning curve on the entrepreneur side, and they're going to figure it out. Like I said before, they're not going to stay stupid. Sooner or later, they're going to see who did you invest in and who didn't you invest in and why not. So I think to the point that this is really has to be collaborative and that all the stakeholders do need to come to the table, but there is a role for the angels sitting around this table to play in elevating the ecosystem here. I mean, you can't do it without governments. You can do something. You can do a lot. And I think that while you may not be able to understood that, of course you have a tremendously busy life and, with the rest of your businesses, but, the reality is it may take one call with one network person that for one business to make the deal or to help them get introduction for the deal. It may not take, 15 hours of your time a week. It might just take that one call, and that will make all the difference in the world. So I think that there are a lot of network effects, a lot of ecosystem effects that, let's take the first step forward. I mean, you'll all figure out, but the one thing that you do need to do as a group, I think, individually first, and then as a group, is commit yourselves to, hey, you know what? It's not going to be perfect from day one. you know, we're not gonna find, it may take 5, 8, 10 meetings before you find something that you fall in love with. 4 years.
Yeah.
But more than likely, if you have, you know, you may not have like huge deal flow, like Emil said, maybe it's only 1 or 2 that you end up investing, but there'll be that learning process, the entrepreneurs will learn, and then, you know, you'll begin to kick off or kickstart the virtuous cycle that this ecosystem needs. Because if you guys don't do it, who the heck is going to do this?
Yeah.
You know, there is no one else. You are it.
Yeah, you're right.
This is it. This is it. And if I were you, and you know, I ran the Global Entrepreneurship Program with the USAID Department, and what I tell every government and every group of angels and everybody else, do not wait for the government. You guys have to lead. You guys have to lead. And as you're moving forward and the government sees that there's interest and, you know, you're their voting base. I mean, you know, you're their support base and everything else. I mean, you know, they're interested in ensuring that the Jordanian economy stays strong. And this is one of the ways it does that. So, I mean, I think that, you know, there's a very important, you know, whatever adjustments you want to make to the plan, notwithstanding, make all the adjustments you want, but I think that this is the group that has to step up and help make this happen, because, you know, it's not JCP. I mean, they're facilitators, you know, they did the research, they said, okay, here's what it looks like, I mean, you guys have to do it.
I just was going to say, so we look at companies from across the region, so primarily Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, some from the Gulf, but by far the Jordanian companies are the best ones that we see. They're the highest quality, the best teams. So I think actually there's a gold mine here.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too
sure.
optimistic. And then the other thing that I would say is the companies we look at that have already received angel investment, and a lot of them are coming out of Oasis, a lot of those investors are from the Gulf. We're the Jordanian investors. So, for example, Al Turkey Group, Bin Laden Group, these guys are all investing in your companies. And a lot of people are sitting in the Gulf. You've got some gems here. I actually think there's a shortage of angel capital. I would love to invest in many more, but we don't have enough capital because we have to increase our investor base. But seriously, you guys have a gold mine right in your own country. Use it.
And I think that goes to Yusuf's point, is that you know, we are looking for investments here, but you know, they can be investors from everywhere, and so even the diaspora work
we set a goal for ourselves last year, this year basically, is that we were increasing the amount of angel investing happening from outside of Jordan by non-Jordanian investors. And we've seen a lot of investments happening further down.
Yeah.
But it also has a company development strategy behind it.
Yeah.
Because you want those companies to get traction in GCC.
Some of it, for example, is not driven by that. Some of it is driven just by because someone has an interest in the space.
But you guys need to start with PBIs and not the other way around, because it's so painful to go from moving the assets from the Jordan local company.
People in
onto the
DGCC really don't
PBI.
care about PBIs a lot, but
No, I mean, as international investors, we don't want
yes,
to have
I
local
fully agree.
liability. No way.
We're
And it's
struggling
so
with that.
painful to do it after they've already been in operation for 1 or 2 years. Very
But
painful.
it's just expensive.
It's not. It's $2,000 to set it up. The PBI. I would give you that now, but.
I'll take you on that. I need $30,000 basically for 10 companies to be ready.
No, seriously, like it's so.
So guys,
so important.
I promised Rami, so we need crowdfunding also comments on this. We want to hear your views.
Yeah, so I've been listening now for 1.5 hours. Didn't interrupt the first. Oh.
Good listening.
I hope so. I try to learn, and I'm only 2 days here now in Jordan, and also I see a lot of potential and a lot of activities here. But what I'd like to share is, by the way, I'm one of the founders of the European Crowdfunding Network, and that's an association for the crowdfunding industry in Europe. And as a founder of the European Crowdfunding Network, I think you really should start an association yourself, like Business Angel Association. It's for learning from each other indeed, that's really valuable, but also as a lobby organization, it's really good either to, if you want to have tax reduction from the government or something else, it's good to know each other and work together. And I also see in every association, everybody has their own business and have your own things to do, but you have some activities in common, and there you find each other. And then sometimes that's with everybody, sometimes that's with a few members of your association. But because you have an association, you can do things and you can take some steps. I think therefore it's really important to do something as an association for the Business Angel Network here. That said, I just want to focus on a few really practical things, because we can talk for hours about what should be done and can be done. But I think there are two, from my experience in the last 5 years, I've been involved in the crowdfunding industry and speaking also with angel networks, because we work together with IBAN in Europe quite a lot. And we do research together, we do activities together. And what we see we're getting a new financing system now. It's not only the banks and informal investors, business angels, or venture capital. You get a whole new, it's an asset class, it's our new investors, small investors that want to invest either for $100 or for a few $100 or perhaps even for $10. And as business angels, these are really interesting networks because they can validate an idea. And that's the first investment, seed investment round, can be done by a group of potential clients or customers of that entrepreneur. And let them validate their idea, let them sell themselves. They need to have soft skills also to sell their first product. So if they sell their first product, it really helps them to validate their idea and to validate their business plan. And then it makes it much easier for you as a business angel to co-invest. And I think that's one of the practical things I'd like to propose, is that try to, and therefore it's good to have an association, try to, as an association, co-invest with crowdfunding platforms. So if you have a crowdfunding platform like Eureka or other platforms, make sure that you will co-invest. You can be lead investor, and the crowd will co-invest with you. But also you can just co-invest through crowdfunding. So you don't do the traditional, for example, 10,000 or 100,000 into investment. You just do a bit smaller, and you can step in much earlier. You don't need the whole due diligence be done before. You just take a very small stake in a very early stage. You learn more about the entrepreneur, you learn more about the company, and then you're also at the table when you want to raise the next round. So I think that's one. And the other thing is the whole discussion about local or regional. And I think both of them are, of course, very important. But I think that, like I said, like most of the investments are done local. So it's good to have a Jordan business angel network. Yeah. But I think there is also a very interesting use to have a more regional approach. But then you should have a bit more on a stakeholder level. Yeah. So then you will have a stakeholder network, I would call it kind of a fintech network or alternative finance network. And you will have business angel networks, you will have regulators, because these are also really important to have there. Accelerators need to be part of that network. And if you have a kind of a regional network with these stakeholders, I think it's really good to share experiences and help each other to create a whole new type of alternative finance. And business angels are one part of it. But there are a lot of different other types of financing entrepreneurs can use. I think that's what I want to share.
So it comes back to Ahmed. Because he brings the health sector experience, and you raised angel investment funds at some stage for your company. Sure.
Actually, this is what I was going to say. It's worth bringing someone who has founded a company, a successful one, the hard way, and share the difficulties and the challenges that they have to come across and how they resolve them in a very hard way. Hopefully, with the present system, it will be much easier than 10 years ago, 12 years ago when I started my own company. So I think it's worth picking a few Jordanian entrepreneurs who have been through the mile, let's say, and share the experience together, because that will give great intelligence on the real challenges related very much to Jordanian environment and ecosystem, and how to address them through the angel network. The other thing, Mr. Emil, I would strongly suggest to encourage those 120 students, Jordanian entrepreneurs in the Silicon Valley, encourage some of them to come back, because actually one or two expats can make a hell of a difference. one man can change a country. And if you
Or woman.
No.
One woman or two men?
Yes, that's right. He said it right. He said
one woman or two men?
Two men.
By the way, most of my staff are females.
I know, it's good.
70 people, 50 are females. And I would like to finish off that if you really look at the major and critical transformation in countries like China and India, were very much related to Chinese and Indian, if they were in Europe or the US, and decided to move back to their country and transfer technology in much easier way. So the adaptation of technology and a new advanced system is much easier by local people who have been in the developed countries and bring them back.
I just something just occurred to me. I mean, there was a great point made earlier that people starting companies straight out of college without any job experience. But there's also an anomaly, so I'm 30, and I'm anomalous in this country that I'm not married, I don't have kids. So guys who do have, or women also, who do have 6 or 7 years of experience, also tend to have 1 or 2 kids here. And so how do you de-risk some of that for the entrepreneurs themselves?
But ask SEMA. What risk?
The risk of failure. So there's a great analysis that was conducted by some US study. It shows that people start companies when they don't have families or when their kids are out of college.
That's not true.
No.
It's actually after
The more family,
Yes,
the better the company.
I'm sure it was a McKinsey study, but.
Family is a good support network.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be, but
So hi, I'm Steven from ICT. Basically, I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years, just answering your question. But I've been an actual entrepreneur once I joined Oasis 500. I've already founded 3 companies, but there was no soft skills. I graduated as a graphic designer, and then I thought the world evolved around graphic design, which was obviously not the case. And then slowly by slowly, I started building my company without just a laptop and a telephone. I didn't know anything about financing it, how to finance it. I just went to my father, or do you have $500? I need to buy a desk to sit on, or do this or do that. So I learned by experience. It took me 8 years from my first business. Second business, it's a boutique. So basically, all my businesses, they're like not an IT, but they always love IT. So once I heard about Oasis, I went and joined there, and they're really, really talking about. I've never heard about entrepreneurship word. It's the first time I hear it in Oasis. I heard it in Oasis, and then after that, it took me to another level. I actually developed a lot of skills, but after I graduated, or the 3-month period from Oasis, they really, really push you to think big. It's not about Jordan, and this is what triggered me. Like, if you're thinking only Jordan, just go home and leave the class now. And that's how I developed eKeep.com. It's for the MENA region. So although we developed it here, but it's in Jordan, because of Oasis 500, they really pushed a lot of companies. They really pushed the mindset of being a startup, being an entrepreneur. But then afterwards, I had a problem, and Emil knows, Emil is my mentor. I always told him I only had small businesses, like I only had like 2 or 3 employees. How can I take it to the next level? What should I do? And that was my problem. I'm actually having, we've talked with Wayne, and I really like how their approach, because there are angel investors who actually would dig in your business and give you the way. And I needed someone to actually take me to lead the way. Unfortunately, I didn't know a lot of angel investors, so I went crowd investment. Crowd investment is marketing to see if this product is really, something that people would look at, and be to have funds as well at the same time. So I really benefited from crowd investing at that stage for my business, marketing-wise and investment-wise. And then, just for you to know, I've always been self-learner. This is self-learning. But unfortunately, Unfortunately, I took Access to Finance 5 times. I've never understood it. But recently, because they always have Arabics, I'm not Arabics. I am a small company, an IT company. I do not know what Arabics do or their numbers, ROI, ROE. So it was always a problem, a challenge for me to accept that. But recently, I was accepted in Vital Voices, if you know the program, and they take you through your business to do a marketing plan, an action plan. And I just did my action plan this morning for 1 to 3 years, and it was just an amazing to actually strategically know, your goals, your bucket lists, and action plan. So this is what we need. We need someone to actually take it to the next level. And speaking of,
Sorry.
No, but she has to answer his question because that was the point.
Question, I've been married for 6 years. I have 2 children, one 2 years and one actually 5 months. I found it that I'm more focused as a mother, and I also have the same theory in my office. I have an 8-month baby from one of the employees. He's always around, and I've seen her before and after. She's just laser focused. It's just amazing how we can be multitasking and laser focused, and we have the support system. I have my family who can support me, my friends. Our culture, Arabic culture, is much, much more supportive, so we can leverage on that. It's an opportunity. Although some investors, they really ask you, how many kids do you have? Do you plan to have other kids? I really find it very offensive, actually, because it is, I'm not going to be a slave to eKeep or any other ventures. It's that the balance between life that would get it both into a good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have to conclude. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. Thank you so much. We got some very good ideas, some very good feedback. We will summarize the findings, the discussion. We will send it back to you, and we promise to stay in touch with you because as we go along, this is going to be more and more feedback. So thank you, everyone.